You can take something off the shelf, train it with your product information, and in 20 minutes, you can build a solution that adds value right away. How do we build those in a low-cost, high-velocity way? Focus on those areas that you can drive immediate value and you can experiment very quickly. As we go through that whole quote to bind process, if you will, the enrollment process, you see that AI has a role in each of those places.
Welcome to StitchStudio's Pilot to Production. In this series, we're interviewing insurance executives, investors, and consultants to hear real stories of how the industry is operationalizing AI in insurance. From carriers and brokerages to technology partners and investors, you'll gain practical insights, implementation strategies, and lessons learned from the leaders driving enterprise-scale adoption, moving from pilots to implementing responsible, predictable, and explainable AI. I'm Karan Mishra, CEO of StitchStudio, and this is Pilot to Production.
Marc, thanks for joining me today.
Thanks for having me on.
Appreciate it, my friend. So why don't we start by you telling everybody a little bit about yourself and the company, and we'll go from there.
Okay, well, BuddyIns, we started as a tech-enabled general agency. We've evolved into an enrollment partner for a lot of brokers out there in the marketplace and a long-term care expert in particular. I started my background about 17 years ago on the home office side, where I would develop products as an actuary for long-term care for the carriers. And I said, how do we get this message out there to the consumer? And so we built really a marketing tech company to enable other brokers that have relationships to offer long-term care the right way through education, through engagement, and using the technology is the best way to meet the client where they're at and to build solutions that meet their needs.
So you're sitting between brokers and carriers with your technology a lot of times. One of the big concerns we hear about in the market about AI is this loss of personalization, right? Loss of the human touch.
Yeah.
How do you respond to that? What's your take on how you can, implement, operationalize AI and other technology, but still keep that piece?
Yeah, long-term care is about planning. It's about helping the 55 million caregivers. It's about telling stories about how we've been caregivers and how do we avoid our kids becoming our caregivers. So it's always about the relationship and how do we help clients understand the need that we're trying to solve first. When we get to the product side, those products can be more complicated, but there's ways to simplify them and to build trust so that people can watch a webinar and understand better how the products help solve that particular problem, how they can build it in affordable ways. So we're always marrying the technology with the human touch, because for long-term care insurance, it's all about trust, because someone has to come to you and encourage you to do this. It's not something people wake up in the morning and say, hey, I'm going to buy my long-term care today. In fact, they don't even know what long-term care is. So without that, our business would not be very successful. And at the end of the day, the AI helps to deliver it more seamlessly. So human in the loop is really the key for us, is empowering the broker with the knowledge so they have the right expertise, but having them still deliver the message to the client.
And so obviously your organization is uniquely focused on bringing a lot of empathy into the market as well. When you think about, technology and that, truly kind of emotional side of it, are there places where you have drawn the line at trying to use technology and forego those kinds of introductions, or are you kind of trying that in all different areas?
I think we're open to trying it in all different areas. Remember, technology is just an enabler to the things that we would want to do anyway, but it can do it more efficiently. And the key to us is how do we build those in a low-cost, high-velocity way? So we can experiment, and we can do it safely as a pilot in a limited scope fashion, see whether we've increased engagement for a voluntary benefits enrollment, and then scale it later. So we're always kind of thinking in terms of how do we test something, and then how do we use the technology later to pour fuel on the fire because we know it's effective and it works, and that gets everyone comfortable. So we're not just throwing it out there, an unproven solution.
So, you do have the unique actuarial background too, to bring to the table. And again, where your organization sits straddling between carriers and brokers and making long-term care more understandable and digestible for those audiences. What would you say about distribution in particular? Like what are the areas where AI can help the most on that front end?
Yeah, I think the actuarial background really helps me understand the carrier's perspective on risk and pricing. And when clients can understand the why, they don't have that question of, okay, this looks too good to be true. There must be a gotcha or a catch. And we can explain the other side of it. is that people that drop their policies are really creating the pricing to be much lower because they're subsidizing the coverage for other folks. So if you're able to understand your product, you can take it with you into retirement and you keep it, then you're going to win, and people can understand that message. So the actuarial side allows me to tell kind of that home office story, and so it makes sense to them. And then, in terms of the messaging and simplification, that's where we can help connect with the consumer and make it really easy for them to understand the product itself. Most of our products are actually not standalone long-term care, but they're group life insurance that has a long-term care rider. So the number one question we get is, why am I buying my long-term care in a life insurance product? Or am I replacing my existing group life product? And the answer is no. This is a long-term care product that happens to be built on life insurance to provide you guarantees and stability. And it checks the boxes for what people didn't like with the health-based long-term care historically. So it's just like, again, having that message makes sense, focusing them on one singular path. So the journey is very consistent from person to person. But there is a lot we can do to also customize it for different audiences using AI and data analysis and segmentation, because a younger client might purchase it a different way than an older client. But there's a broad range of people that do long-term care planning.
You and I both work with a lot of insurance companies, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so we know that's a big core audience of who might be listening to us today. What kind of words of advice or words of wisdom, keys to success that you might share? Obviously your organization, it sounds to me, has made a lot of adoptions in technology, been very nimble with technology and things like AI. What are some of the key things that you would suggest that insurers need to focus on more?
Yeah, I would say, first of all, it's important to work with distributors that have a specialty in that niche area. Because when they design the products, they really have to build it with the customer in mind. And sometimes the carrier is too removed from who the target customer is. But the brokers or the long-term care specialist organizations like us really understand the types of products they have to build for the marketplace. So that's the first thing is, even though, I know you want to protect the risk as a carrier, you really have to build the right product for the market or it's not going to get off the ground. The other thing is to make your platforms to be easy to partner with. So there's a lot of enrollment platforms out there. If you have pricing that you're able to enable with APIs so they can connect to any platform that's interested in quoting the product, that's going to enable you into a lot more channels, and it's going to reduce the operational inefficiencies that you might have. Like you might be doing a lot of RFPs and quoting, but very few of those quotes actually turn into sold cases, but you're wasting a lot of time with this back and forth. We built actually a pre-quoting software, and the carriers that enable us with their rates, we actually know that the case is going to sell before we even go to the carrier for an RFP, which just saves a whole lot of time, but it's only enabled if the carrier can work with us so that we know how to quote their product. We know what the underwriting rules of the road are. So the more barriers you put up to that, or the more you make it proprietary, or you only work with certain platforms, the less likely it is that folks that work in our niche space are going to be able to, promote the product, get it to the right brokers and to the right clients. At the end of the day, it's both product that wins, but also having the right process where the broker has confidence that the carrier can deliver on that experience. And that's all the way through billing, which typically on the employee benefit side is one of the bigger pain points. Is if we can enable billing on an ACH basis instead of a payroll deduction, we can deliver a much better experience and not have the carrier's billing team have to be as involved, because it's directly being billed to the client, and we can enable it with fintech solutions through our enrollment platforms. So really it comes down to having a vision for that and not getting stuck in a box. Well, this is the way we've always done it before.
Yeah, that's great. So speaking of a vision, looking towards the future, next 5-6 years, what do you think is sort of the role that AI will play, particularly in your business, in the distribution of long-term care? Do you see it on the enrollment side more? Do you see it more in broker adoption of the product, building of the products, all of the above?
Yeah, it's probably all the way through the entire process. So when I think about the beginning of the process, which is identifying opportunities, AI can do a great job of saying, here are the types of prospects that would benefit from this solution. Okay, so again, most of this is going to be human in the loop, but if it can identify those prospects, the salesperson can go out and they're going to have a much better time of connecting with a client that's the right fit. And then we talk about quoting, the same thing. We use it as a product recommendation tool, AI. So it can actually take in the groups that have had success with certain carriers and make a product recommendation for groups that have a similar profile to them. When we get into enrollment, we look at the data on segmentation and what does the census look like, who's going to be a target fit for particular plan designs. And so we can actually target and go out to those clients and say, here's a particular journey and message that's specific to that segment, which might be different from a different segment that might design that particular plan differently. So AI is helping us, but again, human in the loop usually, because you still need a marketing team to have the right content that resonates with that client, even once you've identified that segmentation. So really, I think a lot of those areas where you have a robust data set, AI is much better at driving insights, but anything that has like a communication aspect and a messaging aspect, you're going to have a much better time with human in the loop. But we do also use AI for customer service and servicing questions, because a lot of times it's just, give me factual information about my policy or about the contract. We teach it the contract language. And so we have a chatbot on our enrollment pages that people can ask really basic questions about the policy to the chatbot. And we have a lot of confidence because it's just giving back the information from what's written in the contract already. You don't have to have a human that has specialized expertise to answer those questions. But as you can see, as we go through that whole quote to bind process, if you will, the enrollment process, you see that AI has a role in each of those places. But I would advise focus on those areas that you can drive immediate value and you can experiment very quickly. Some of the AI tools, you can take something off the shelf, train it with your product information, and in 20 minutes, you can build a solution that adds value right away. And I think those that kind of overthink it, get stuck in their own process, tend to be the ones that don't pragmatically implement anything. And it's very expensive at a certain point if you really try to build custom AI versus building something off the shelf can be very inexpensive. So we just focus on those areas, and then you can start connecting the dots later to make it more of an end-to-end experience. But you got to start with something you can add value in right away.
Fantastic. Thanks for all your perspectives, my friend, and taking some time with us today.
Yeah, appreciate having me on. And for anybody out there, don't be a stranger. Feel free to reach out. We're an abundance mentality type of company. So any partners we have that might be a good fit, we're happy to recommend to you. And if you have any needs with long-term care, we're happy to help you find those solutions for your clients too.
Very good.
Thanks for watching. You can subscribe to our show on YouTube or by following us on LinkedIn. And please consider giving us a rating or a review so it helps others to find our show. Visit StitchStudio.ai to learn more about our applied AI solution built for insurance. See you soon.